Story 1. Washing hands after ordering in a restaurant and before eating, especially if you are eating with your hands, is important. You have touched door handles to enter and shared menus. How can people arrive at a restaurant, order, and eat with their hands, such as burgers, fries, rolls, chips, and salsa, without washing their hands? Story 2. I have said it before and I am saying it again. No one ever washes their belt, but it is always touched right after using the restroom. Story 3. I'm not really afraid of germs, but I have separate inside clothes and outside clothes. I don't know how often chairs and other surfaces I interact with outside have been cleaned, especially in places like doctors' offices. When I come home, I take off the pants and shirt I was wearing outside and change into the clothes I was wearing at home before. It only takes a minute. Story 4. Washing my hands. The number of times I am in a public restroom and people leave without washing their hands gives me serious discomfort. Story 5. Apparently, washing your hands after exiting a public bathroom stall is no longer common, based on my observations. Story 6. Wear a face mask if you are sick and need to go into the office, especially if you work in an open seating area. Story 7. Change your cooking utensils once the meat has fully cooked. Some people use the same utensil that touched raw meat to serve cooked meat or eggs, and I cannot handle that. It should be as obvious as using a separate cutting board for raw meat and vegetables, but some people do not want to dirty extra dishes and do not do either. I think it is well worth it for the peace of mind alone. Story 8. Wash your hands after petting an animal, especially before cooking. My friends with dogs often pet them and then eat crackers or other food without washing their hands. It grosses me out. Story 9. My wife's family has now adopted the idea of a separate candle cake when it is someone's birthday, after I admitted I could not eat a birthday cake after someone had blown all over it to blow the candles out. This is typically a small muffin with a candle on it. They thought it was weird at first, but after watching my niece spit all over a cake while blowing her candles out, and then having to serve saliva-covered slices to everyone there, they now view me as a germaphobic genius. Story 10. As a cook, I will go out of my way to wash my hands. If it is not done thoroughly or I experience intense inner disgust, I will do it repeatedly until I feel at ease. Story 11. I shower and wash my clothes immediately after coming home from work. I live in a large city and take public transportation. It makes me uncomfortable to imagine all the germs that are probably on me. Story 12. I think it is unpleasant to open packages or set them down on the kitchen counter. Who knows what they were resting on before sitting on my front porch for hours? I prepare meals on the kitchen counter, and I dislike the idea of my clean utensils or food touching the same spot as the bottom of a package from outside. My husband says I am being odd, but now he opens his packages and mail on a different table where we do not eat. I think he just does not want to admit that I am right. Story 13. Check your hotel room for bedbugs. It is not quite germs, but it is my ultimate fear. Otherwise, wash your hands when getting home. Wash your hands after you go to the bathroom, even if you only urinate. You would be surprised how many times I have heard people say they do not wash if they only urinate. Wash your hands before handling food and also before foreplay. Hand hygiene in general is very important. Wash your phone as well. Those are some of the most important hygiene practices in my opinion. Story 14. When you are leaving a public restroom, for the love of God, do not open the door with your hands. Use your shoulder, hip, or cover your hands with a paper towel to turn the knob. Many people do not wash their hands after using the bathroom, and if you touch the door handle after them, it is as if you have not washed your hands. Story 15. I still wear a mask when I am on public transit or in crowded public places. It was the norm for a while thanks to coronavirus disease, but people have gone back to not caring. I have not gotten sick in more than 5 years. Story 16. I wash my hands frequently. Consequently, I have dry hands and need to moisturize. However, sometimes my hands feel too moist, so I wash them again. This routine makes sense to me. Story 17. Wipe down the desk, keyboard, and armrest at work when you do not have a fixed seat and are hot desking. I am not joking. I wiped one down last week, and the wipe was dark gray. Story 18. Take your shoes off at home. People, what is the point of cleaning your place when you immediately bring in the filth of the public streets inside? You just undid any cleaning or sweeping. If you have cats or dogs, know that their paws have touched every surface. Story 19. I use the back of my knuckles when using card machines or automated teller machines. I also hold my breath for a good 5 seconds if I pass someone at close quarters. I am aware it is ridiculous, but I am also convinced it has saved my life. My wife thinks I am autistic. I should add that I am quite happy to gut a deer or work outside and then eat my lunch with only a wipe of my hands. It is only people germs that disgust me. Story 20. Washing my hands after touching almost anything, especially when cooking or before eating. Immediately after I order food at a restaurant, I go to the restroom to wash my hands. My hands must be clean before eating anything handheld. I do not use the condiments at the table because of all the previous unwashed hands that have touched them. When I use a public restroom, I use a paper towel to turn off the tap and open the door after washing my hands. I wish all public restrooms had doors that could be open hands-free. Story 21. Always closing the toilet lid. I could never live with someone who lets toilet water spray all over their bathroom. Story 22. When dining out, I spice my meal with black pepper. Before I grab the shaker, I wrap my napkin around it because no one ever cleans the shakers. At the dentist, you know that bright light in front of your face that the dentist keeps adjusting? I know the dentist is wearing gloves, but they put their hands in my mouth, then adjust the light, then back in my mouth, and so on. Considering how many patients they see all day, I only make first patient of the day appointments and hope someone disinfected the light before I arrived. Story 23. I carry hand sanitizer with me wherever I go. I sanitize my hands after using the work computers and after washing my hands in the bathroom. The bathroom air itself is full of germs, so your hands can become contaminated immediately after washing. I sanitize before touching my face or putting anything in my mouth. I wear gloves at work frequently because I often have to touch objects that many other people touch, and it makes me uncomfortable. Story 24. Cough into your elbow. This is a simple way to help reduce the spread of germs. Many people sneeze or cough into their hands, which is unhygienic. I also use a paper towel to handle the gas station nozzle. Additionally, I wash my hands right before eating, especially at public buffets where many people touch the same serving utensils and then eat with their hands. This is very unsanitary. Story 25. Disinfecting the edges under chair seats, where people grab to pull the chair and themselves under a table. Also, the edges of chair backs that people touch. I can get myself all worked up about germs, although I am much more relaxed than I used to be. Story 26. Wash your hands and feet with soap and water as soon as you enter the home. Leave outside shoes by the door. Wear home slippers or go barefoot because I mop and vacuum the entire home every few days. Change outside clothes within a few minutes of reaching home so that no outside clothes touch the bed. Wash your hands before you touch food or cook. To prevent cross-contamination, wash your hands after touching different ingredients. Story 27. In my opinion, I wash my hands a very reasonable amount, but I still wash them 10 times more than everyone else. Why aren't people washing their hands? Story 28. If I buy anything from a shop, I wipe it down with an antibacterial wipe, especially food and packages. I also wipe down my phone, which I use to pay for things. People do not wash their hands and often pick up items in shops and put them back. No, thank you. Story 29. I do not touch my face at all in public. I sometimes overdo it by using one hand to touch objects, such as opening doors or using a pencil, and the other hand to touch my face if I need to rest my head or scratch my eye. I think I really overdo it. Story 30. Close the toilet lid before flushing to prevent germs from spreading throughout the bathroom. Story 31. Lining a public toilet seat with toilet paper before using it. Would you go up to a stranger and press your naked bottom against theirs? I do not know about you, but I certainly would not. Story 32. I use my elbows to open public doors. If available, I use paper towels to pump gas. After washing my hands in a public restroom, I quickly dry them with a paper towel and then use the towel to turn off the water if necessary. I try not to touch anything shared in public, and if I do, I use hand sanitizer for my car or purse immediately. I also wear a mask whenever I fly. I got really sick on a vacation before the coronavirus pandemic, and it has traumatized me since. I also use disinfectant wipes on the plane. Story 33. Wash fresh produce with soap and water. At this point, it is not even about farming residue. It is the child who picked his nose, the person who scratched his butt, the employee who sneezed, all handling the pile of apples, broccoli, bell peppers, and so on. For the waxed or varnished items, use a scrub sponge. Story 34. I wash my hands before I reach into food items like bread and chip bags. You can reduce the chance of mold on bread by not introducing contaminants when you take out a slice. Even if you have not done anything to dirty your hands, a fresh wash makes a difference. If you are going to clean something in your sink that is especially dirty, such as an item with possible pathogens on it, fully remove your dish draining rack and dishwashing items from the area. You do not want splashes landing on the items you use to keep your dishes clean. Story 35. Wash your toothbrush. You do not reuse the same spoon for days after it has been cleaned. Wash it. Story 36. Using different tongs or utensils for raw versus cooked meat on the barbecue is recommended. It is what people are supposed to do, but hardly anyone does. Story 37. Hold my breath and cover my face when I walk past someone who just sneezed, coughed, or in general looks unclean. Story 38. Always use hand sanitizer whenever you touch anything outside your home that you have not cleaned yourself. Story 39. I sanitize my phone every night because I feel it gets dirty throughout the day. I also wipe down the furniture in my room even when nobody has been there. Story 40. Immediately wash your hands after you touch anything. Use your foot to close a trash bin so dirt does not get on your hands, and use your foot to flush the toilet. Wash your hands after you touch the floor, even if you just got out of the shower. Avoid certain parts of your house if you fear germs will get on your skin. Story 41. I do not share drinks with people. My friends think it is strange that I never want to try their drink, but I just think it is a little unpleasant. To each their own, though. Story 42. When I lived with roommates, they wore their shoes inside the house. I had slippers for the rest of the house and separate slippers for my room. I did not want the floor in my room to be contaminated with whatever their shoes were tracking in. Story 43. Sanitize door handles in the house and cell phone daily. Do not forget the buttons on the sides. I only sanitize the television remote, mouse, and keyboard weekly. Use knuckles for public buttons, especially touchscreen menus and elevators. Sanitize after fastening and unfastening the airplane seatbelt. I always have my own pen. Return to the bathroom stall to grab toilet paper before exiting, or wait for someone to enter and quickly leave before the door closes. This is because public bathrooms often require pulling the door handle to exit, exposing you to germs from people who did not wash their hands. Sanitize after touching restaurant menus and condiments. Finally, knowing that the coronavirus caused us to think the general population would be more hygienic, it is disappointing that most have forgotten and returned to normal habits. Story 44. I am not a germaphobe, but I love doing a quick clean of my house most mornings before we all leave. I clean the bathrooms and sanitize all surfaces, empty the garbage cans, sanitize the kitchen countertops, and wash the floors. Because I do it almost every day, it only takes half an hour, and it makes me feel better knowing that, at least for a few seconds, the surfaces are clean. Story 45. After reading this comment section, I realize I should stop eating sandwiches with engine oil on my hands. Story 46. I sanitize my hands right after I use a payment pad at the store or touch a doorknob or elevator button. I also have house slippers for my own home because I do not wear outside shoes inside. I do not get into my bed unless I have showered. Story 47. I wear a mask before cleaning up the wildlife feces that I find in the yard before mowing the grass. I do not want to breathe that in. Story 48. I sanitize my hands after filling up the car at the gas station or shopping, before getting into the car and going home. Story 49. When I come home from anywhere, I wash my hands, arms, and face. I also clean my glasses and disinfect my phone. I take a shower every night. When I am doing homework in my room, after I finish, I wipe down my desk and chair with a disinfectant wipe. If a person uses the bathroom before me, I will hover or clean the entire toilet before using it. I also have a habit of regularly cleaning doorknobs and light switches. Story 50. Showering before getting into bed. I can't believe people just roll around in their sheets with the entire day's worth of outside on them. Story 51. No specific example. My imagination just likes to think that it has prevented me from breathing in many airborne contagions. Story 52. My germophobia comes from being immunocompromised, so I do a few things most germaphobes would consider to be too much. It definitely surprises me when I watch people grab things off a public ground or space and continue touching their face and hair. Same with just the overall touching of face and hair in public. I have never understood that. Story 53. Not touching my face as much as possible. After watching Contagion, I noticed how much people touch their face. It grosses me out seeing people touching door handles, then a minute later rubbing their noses or eyes. Story 54. When reaching for a door handle on a public building, I usually reach for the very bottom of the handle where I assume fewer people have touched it. I also try to use a knuckle instead of my fingertips. Story 55. My coworker is an extreme germaphobe and will not go to movie theaters because the thought of people sitting in them grosses him out. Story 56. For people who carry handbags, think of all the places where we set them. The nail salon comes to mind first. Imagine the germs and dirt on that floor. We often place them on the floor under our desks at work, in the grocery cart, and on public transportation. Many of us also set them on our beds when we get home. I wipe mine down with a disinfecting wipe as soon as I get home. Story 57. I acknowledge this is not possible for many, but I prepare all my own food as fresh as possible. Takes a fair amount of planning and organization. I do not do buffets ever. Restaurants are rare. I had severe health issues a while back that were all gastrointestinal related. I am exceedingly diligent with food safety. The cleanliness of my kitchen is spectacular. Story 58. Wearing gloves while handling raw meat is important. All my friends make fun of me, but it just feels like common sense. Story 59. Question for you germaphobes. Taking into account that the immune system works by being exposed to germs, bacteria, and viruses, as this exposure strengthens and exercises the system, how much exposure to germs and bacteria do you think is acceptable? And when is the right time to expose oneself to it? Story 60. Stop placing cooking utensils on the counter. The counter is not clean enough for food preparation. Even worse is placing them in the sink. Story 61. I love German people. I have a strong chocolate habit, which I cannot help but indulge in since I visit Germany frequently. Story 62. Not a germaphobe but an infectious disease scientist. Maybe some insights might be helpful. Washing hands is a fantastic way to keep from getting that cold, flu, and perhaps on occasion coronavirus disease 2019. But here is the deal. You cannot touch your face until your hands have been washed. We habitually touch our face, put things in our mouth without thinking about it. For this to work, no touching your eyes, nose, or mouth until your hands are washed. Takes practice, let me tell you. And yes, if you touch that doorknob, then you need to not touch your face until you have washed your hands. I have been doing this for about 15 years, particularly in cold and flu season. Have not got a cold in 15 years. I used to catch every single cold that came without fail. But like I said, if you don't stop touching your face between hand washes, then it won't work. You have to work at it to make it a habit to not touch your face like you usually do. Harder than you think. Some specific situations you may not need it. I live at home alone, so when at home I don't have to do this since I wash once at home and there is no other way for these viruses to get in. Coronavirus disease 2019, of course, transmits through the air very efficiently, so wearing an N95 respirator can help. Cloth or surgical masks will not protect you. If you get N95 respirators, they must be used correctly or they won't help either. It must have a seal to your face. Any air coming in around the edges means the mask is not working. Got a beard and this type of mask? Won't help you. Not sealed to your face and air comes in around the sides. As a college professor during the pandemic, in close contact with students in classes where coronavirus disease 2019 was rampant among the students, I wore AN95 respirator. Since I was lecturing, I learned that talking all the time was breaking the seal to my face and I got coronavirus disease 2019 anyway, about as soon as the students who did not have N95 respirators. Keep these things in mind. Imperfect mask use may be of some help, but coronavirus disease 2019 is really infectious, so don't expect a lot. It really depends on how well it is sealed and the environment you are in. A lot of the rest of the stuff people do doesn't do anything and can actually be harmful, such as going overboard with cleanliness in their homes. Antibacterial cleaners kill both good and bad bacteria. What grows back may not be good. The bacteria will get resistant to the cleaner after a while, and this can contribute to antibiotic resistance. So you risk making the bacteria you have more dangerous this way. When they become resistant to the cleaning agent, they will probably also have acquired some cross-resistance to some antibiotics as well, a known phenomenon. Now, if you get an infection from that bacteria, then it will be partially antibiotic resistant. If you get really unlucky and have bacteria in your home already resistant to other antibiotics, adding more resistance with your cleaner could be a source of a real problem. If you use regular cleaners without antimicrobials, the population of good bacteria will grow back and compete for that space from any other bacteria, including bad ones, from taking hold. Not all bacteria are bad, and those good bacteria can help protect your health. People use antibacterial soap on the body as opposed to just soap. This is not good. You have good bacteria on and in your body that actually are part of your innate immune defenses. The good bacteria can block the bad bacteria from taking hold. So use just regular soap, not the antibacterial kind. That should not be used for regular washing purposes. Eventually, the bacteria will become resistant, causing cross-antibiotic resistance, which is not good. This is a little more speculative, but for those with an extreme compulsion for washing a lot, not regular showers, you are washing away oils and other things that the good bacteria feed on and thus protect us. I suspect extreme overwashing probably reduces the effectiveness of the protective bacteria you want. This does not even get into the hygiene hypothesis where, at the ages of roughly 2 to 4, you can adversely affect your child's immunity by keeping them too clean. This leaves them at risk of allergies, autoimmune disease, and even a small increased risk of certain types of cancer. At that age, get a pet. Let your kid roll around in the dirt and just be filthy little kids. Long term, we believe this is good for them. It is possible the modern-day increase in allergies of all sorts may be a function of being too clean at these key ages. For what it is worth, these are the things I do. Proper hand washing, no antibacterial soaps or cleaners, and N95 respirators for coronavirus disease 2019. I can't think of anything else beneficial in a meaningful sense that doesn't run the risk of making you worse off for doing it. Story 63. Wearing a mask. Many people think coronavirus disease 2019 is over, but the truth is the pandemic is still very much present. I am severely immunocompromised due to having myalgic encephalomyelitis/chronic fatigue syndrome, and my illness was caused by a virus. Therefore, I am not willing to risk any further harm. I do not consider myself to be a germaphobe. It is just common sense when you look at the science. Story 64. I'm a cleaner. Germs don't bother me. I haven't been sick in nearly 10 years. It used to be the flu every 3 or 4 years when I was in my 20s. Now, getting sick is becoming less frequent, not even any sniffles or anything in years. I don't do anything special. Just bathe once a day and wash my hands and face a few times. I never smell bad and am often told I smell nice. One of the best compliments is being told you smell nice. Story 65. I think it is gross to open packages or set them down on the kitchen counter. Who knows what they were sitting on before they were left on my front porch for hours. I prepare meals on the kitchen counter, and I hate the thought of my clean utensils or food touching the same spot as the bottom of a package from outside. My husband says I am being weird, but now he opens his packages and mail on a different table where we do not eat. I think he just does not want to admit I am right. Story 66. Opening doors using my hands inside my shirt, jacket, or cardigan, or feet first if possible. Rinsing my hands with water after grocery shopping before getting in the car instead of using sanitizer. At the gas pump, grabbing a few paper towels, or if they are unavailable, some napkins or tissues from the car, and using them to touch the buttons, the handle of the gas pump, and to open and close the car gas door. Washing my hands before, during, and after eating. When I do not have access to wash my hands during a meal, I use multiple napkins or tissues to wipe my face and hands, especially if eating something messy like a sandwich or burger. I avoid using a napkin more than once or twice because it just smears the mess back on. Opening and closing doors and other things with my feet whenever possible to avoid touching them with my hands. Removing outside clothes and shoes immediately upon entering the house and changing into house shoes and clothes or pajamas. Washing hands right away. Also, wiping off my cell phone to remove outside germs. Outdoor germs do not bother me as much as germs from other people. Story 67. Washing my hands at least 3 times an hour unless I am doing a highly focused task for longer than that. Yes, they dry out, crack, and eventually bleed a bit in the winter, but I do not understand how anyone can stand feeling the grime of everything they have touched in the last 20 or so minutes for an extended period. Story 68. Washing my hands anytime they get dirty. Taking a shower before I touch my bed. Preferably showering anytime I come home. Story 69. Inside clothes and outside clothes. I let my neighbor's dog out to pee a few times a week and dedicate 1 or 2 outfits just for that purpose. The dog stays by my door and cannot touch the furniture. When I come inside, I immediately shower and then change clothes. Wash your hands anytime you go inside before you touch anything. No packages on the countertops unless I plan to clean them afterward. One side of my towel is for my body, and the other side is for my face. Story 70. I open doors before washing my hands, or I use my sleeve. I wash my hands before eating, even after having a shower. I do not share food or water, even with my own family. I inspect glasses every time I sit down to eat. I get nervous if I do not have hand sanitizer with me. I have varying mental levels of cleanliness. Level 1 is I would eat with my hands. Level 2 is I would touch my face or blow my nose but not eat. Level 3 is I would not touch my face or phone if it is clean. Level 4 is I cannot touch anything because my hands are visibly dirty. Story 71. As others have mentioned, wipe my phone down with alcohol 2 to 3 times a day. Wash hands right after ordering at a restaurant. Wash the outside of cups when I get home, such as Starbucks or fast food soda cups. Wash sauce packets before using them. Wash the caps of drinks, half and creamer containers. Wash the tops off hot sauce containers before putting them in the refrigerator. Use new kitchen and bathroom towels almost every day. Change clothes after coming home from anywhere. Story 72. I always feel like my heart is beating a lot faster than it actually is, so I just take my pulse and focus on that until I calm down. Story 73. I went to my annual eye doctor examination. There are multiple machines that require placing your chin into a cup-like area. There are also paddles that require holding and placing over one eye and then the other. At each step, I asked them to sterilize the machines before I placed my face anywhere near them. I do this every year. Story 74. Not letting anybody have my food with the same utensil that I am using. I was having shave ice last week, and my dad literally got angry at me because I would only let him have a bite if he got a new spoon that had not been in his mouth yet. I have been like this for at least 5 years. I do not know why he thinks it is going to change. I only try someone else's food or drink if I get the first bite or sip, and I only let someone else try mine if it is the last bite or sip, or if it is something you can use a fork or spoon for, provided it has not been used yet. Story 75. No leftovers. Cover and refrigerate immediately if needed. Wild yeast spores and other microorganisms are drifting everywhere. You thought flies on your food were bad. Fungi can double the colony size every 12 hours. Story 76. My girlfriend is a germaphobe. Rules are as follows. No outside clothes in the bedroom. Big no. You must shower before touching or lying on the bed. Phones must be wiped down before bringing them into the bedroom. Hands must be washed before eating. If I get up to touch the thermostat, wash your hands. Just came home from being outside? Wash your hands. Full garbage bags from the kitchen or bathroom must not bump into anything inside when taking them outside. No outside long-sleeve shirts while putting clean dishes back on the shelf. Dirty sleeves can touch the dishes. If clean laundry accidentally falls on the floor when taking it out of the dryer, do not put it back with the clean clothes. Always wear a mask when outside. Story 77. This thread is interesting to me. I do a lot of this activity, wiping bottles with disinfectant, and anything else you are going to touch at home with clean hands, started during the coronavirus pandemic and is still ongoing. Maybe my family does it more than is comfortable, but wiping bottles and phones should be the standard, I think. Story 78. I do not like touching the door handles when leaving a restroom. I believe all restroom doors should be kicked open to exit, not pulled to exit. Often, I have to use a few pieces of toilet paper to pull open the doors on the way out, then dispose of it in a bin. Story 79. I have found my people. I will add, should go without saying, but here we are, not eating things off the ground. Yes, the 5-second rule. Whatever. Do you know how gross the ground is? Even though I do not wear my outside shoes inside and only wear indoor slippers, I still will not eat anything that has fallen on the floor. Think about it like this. Would you lick the ground outside? W. Story 80. Putting bags down on train floors, toilet floors, and then happily bringing them into your living room and placing them on the kitchen counter is not hygienic. Outside bags should be kept with shoes and coats, and if they must make a brief trip further into the house, they should stay on the floor. Story 81. I think it is very strange that people wear their outdoor footwear inside except for a brief moment here or there. I have slippers for guests at the front door. I have my own indoor slip-ons for my living area floor and another pair to wear when going down to the basement. I can step out of these into outdoor flip-flops at the front or back door. I often wear boots to work and then switch into dress loafers that I keep there, a pair at each location. On very busy days, I have dress boots for times when multiple formal errands are necessary. Story 82. Not really a germaphobe, but I am very strict about my household washing their hands multiple times a day. I have 2 toddlers, so as soon as they walk in the door from anywhere, preschool, playing outside, trip to the store, the first thing we do is wash our hands. Before touching food, after eating, after going near the bathroom, and after about an hour or 2 of playing in the house, constantly. I was a massage therapist for 15 years until I changed professions. So washing my hands frequently is hardwired into my DNA. Then, having a baby in 2020, my hand washing increased significantly. Story 83. Closing the toilet lid before I flush, cleaning my toothbrush with hydrogen peroxide, cleaning my phone with a disinfecting wipe, washing my hands before touching anything that goes around my eyes, ears, nose, and mouth. Story 84. Men should wash their hands. Seriously. I clean the office after hours, and men's soap dispensers and paper towels are replaced only once for every 50 times the ones in the women's restroom are replaced. You might think it is due to a staff ratio, but men's urinals and toilets are used and need daily cleaning. They just do not wash their hands. Story 85. Using hand sanitizer in Veterans Affairs hospitals, washing my hands after using the restroom, not touching my face in public, and washing my hands if I do. Washing my hands before and after eating. Many people do none of this. Story 86. After you are done with the sponge, douse it in rubbing alcohol. It will kill any bacteria and dry 10 times faster. After I wash my cutting boards, I coat them in rubbing alcohol to dry. Story 87. When traveling, only use plastic polycarbonate suitcases, never fabric ones. Bedbugs cannot easily climb plastic suitcases, and you can clean them for maintenance. Never put your suitcase on the hotel bed. Story 88. I don't eat certain foods because they are high risk for processing contamination, specifically pre-made salads and similar items. Every step in the preparation of food is another opportunity for contamination. Pre-cut or shredded vegetables are a no-go for me unless I plan to cook them like frozen vegetables. Story 89. I generally do not eat at potlucks, and if I do, I need to know who brought each dish and only choose certain items. Please do not offer me candy or chips from a shared bag. I never accept them. My children are not allowed to climb on my bed wearing daycare clothes. I wash my hands frequently, but the first thing I do when I arrive home is wash them again. If anyone touches my computer or pens, I immediately wipe them down. Story 90. Washing my hands as soon as I enter my house or after touching a trash can. I was diagnosed with obsessive-compulsive disorder. My therapist thought it was funny that I talked about doing these things and said, "But obviously everyone does." It turns out people are actually disgusting. Story 91. I bring alcohol spray with me everywhere I go. I spray down my shopping cart, the keypad at checkout, my hands, my keys, my phone, and the door handle to my car. Story 92. Weekly clean common touch surfaces around the house, including light switches, doorknobs, fridge and cupboard handles, and sink taps. Perform extra cleaning of these surfaces after putting groceries away or taking out the garbage or recycling. Wear a mask in any crowded public space, such as stores and transit, as well as in all medical facilities. Clean phone and sunglasses with rubbing alcohol after coming home. Do not place outdoor clothes on the bed or at desk or lounge areas. Wash hands before and after touching grocery items that have been in the home for less than a week. Open the dryer before opening the washer, and use the other hand to move clean clothes into the dryer. Wipe down laundry machines weekly, and clean the washer immediately after or during laundering of particularly dirty items, such as kitchen linens washed in hot water. Bring a clean knife and compostable chopsticks when eating outdoors. Wash bedding once a week. Clean the kitchen sink, stove, and surrounding areas, including stove knobs and buttons, once a day or every other day. Use a paper towel to turn off taps and open doors in public bathrooms. Story 93. Mom of 3 elementary kids here. I wouldn't consider myself a germaphobe, but I just expect my kids to wash their hands when we get home after being in public. Went to a park? Wash your hands. Went to the store and touched anything? Wash your hands. Even went into our yard and dug in the dirt? Wash your hands the minute you come inside. Plus, we have a half bathroom on the main level, literally 6 feet from the front door. Wash your hands. Story 94. Brutal, cruel honesty ahead. Every new parent should have a dedicated diaper pail and a small trash bin for baby diapers, wipes, and other baby hygiene-related waste. Surfaces in contact with infants and toddlers become smelly, sticky, or stained. New parents become nose-blind to this, but visitors notice. By the way, nonprofit organizations and church charities can help you get things you need for babies, including vouchers for formula and referrals to community closets. Also, if you work from home, keep your workstation clean. Story 95. Washing my hands after touching almost anything. Shopping carts are the worst. I get so paranoid. I am such a germaphobe. I have emetophobia too. That is pretty much why I wash so much. Story 96. This is completely a holdover from the pandemic, but I use hand sanitizer after I touch the buttons on the elevator or doorknobs. Story 97. I'm not a germaphobe, but I'm terrified of mold of any kind, and I don't care how safe mold types are. Mushrooms are evil, as are most types of vegan burgers made from mold. Story 98. Wearing a proper mask, such as a filtering facepiece 2 or N95 respirator, on public transport or in shops is important. I like not getting colds, and I feel like we have learned almost nothing from coronavirus disease 2019. We all benefit from there being fewer infections, but for reasons I cannot understand, even people who are obviously sick are far too selfish to just put a mask on. As a society, we do not see this as enough of a public nuisance to fine people for it. Yet, we would rightly fine people for public urination despite that being a much less harmful thing than colds, let alone influenza or coronavirus disease 2019. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.